Hey everyone! Today, we're jumping into a topic that's way more complex than it might seem at first glance: the realities of dementia within Asian communities. Let's get right into it. So, let's start with a big question. Does a condition like dementia really impact everyone in the same way, regardless of their background? It sounds like a simple enough question, but as you're about to see, the answer is, well, it's complicated. Because when you start to peel back the layers and look past the surface level numbers, a much more nuanced and honestly pretty surprising story starts to take shape. So, first up, let's look at the big picture, the top level statistic that you often hear, the one that frames the whole conversation, but can also be pretty misleading. Now, here's what's interesting. When you look at Asian Americans as one single large group, studies consistently find they have lower overall rates of dementia than white Americans. And at first glance, that seems like really positive news, right? But it's not the full story, not even close. And this is where we really have to hit the brakes and ask a crucial question. I mean, think about it. The continent of Asia is home to dozens and dozens of countries and unique cultures. So is it really accurate to talk about the Asian community as if it's just one big monolithic group? So let's dig a little deeper. In this next section, we're going to unpack that broad statistic and really show you the incredible diversity that's been hiding inside it all along. And wow, this is where the data gets truly revealing. A landmark 14-year study actually looked at specific subgroups, and the results were absolutely eye-opening. Researchers found that Filipino Americans had the highest rate of dementia, while South Asian Americans had the lowest. The variation there is just massive. It's so important to understand that this kind of detailed data is pretty new. For decades, research basically just lumped all Asian communities into one bucket, or maybe they'd focus only on Japanese Americans. And what that did was give us a really incomplete and frankly just an inaccurate picture of what was really going on. And the challenges go way beyond just the diagnosis rates. There's also the very human experience of just trying to get medical care. According to the Alzheimer's Association, a staggering 34% of Asian Americans report experiencing discrimination when they're seeking care for dementia. 34%. That's nearly 4 times the rate reported by white Americans, which is at 9%. So all of this brings us to a barrier that you can't measure in a lab. You can't see it on a brain scan. But it has a profound, profound impact. And that's the cultural barrier of stigma. This quote from a 2017 study of Chinese Americans just gets right to the heart of it. That feeling of being embarrassed about having a relative with Alzheimer's disease. That single feeling can prevent families from even acknowledging there's a problem, let alone seeking out the diagnosis and support they need. And these feelings are often rooted in some pretty deeply held cultural beliefs. The idea that memory loss is just a normal part of getting old, or maybe that it's a matter of fate. There are also these powerful negative views about placing elders in nursing homes, and that's a sentiment that researchers found to be particularly strong among Indian, Vietnamese, and Filipino Americans. So what happens when this stigma leads to silence? Well, the consequences are very real, and they are incredibly severe for absolutely everyone involved. It's really a clear and damaging chain reaction. You feel embarrassed, and that leads to a reluctance to ask for help. That hesitation then causes huge delays in getting a proper diagnosis and treatment, and that in turn contributes to worse mental health outcomes, more social isolation, and just a poor quality of life for both the person with dementia and for their family caregivers. Okay, so that's the problem. But what's the solution? Where do we go from here? Well, the evidence points overwhelmingly to one powerful tool as the path forward, and that's education. The logic here is actually pretty simple, but it's so profound. Stigma isn't born from malice. It's born from a lack of understanding and awareness. So the most direct and effective way to dismantle all these negative attitudes is to replace misinformation and fear with clear, accessible knowledge. And this isn't just some vague concept. Research has actually pinpointed the key educational priorities for families. It all starts with just understanding the difference between the normal process of aging and the actual symptoms of dementia. From there, it's about learning the practical skills for caregiving and, crucially, providing resources for managing the immense stress that caregivers face. And this really brings us to the challenge ahead. It's not enough to just have this information. The question we're all left with is this: how can we each help turn this understanding into meaningful action in our own families and communities?
How can we open up these conversations and finally break the silence? It's something for all of us to think about.